way we bought them was really cool because we can use them to teach basically any PLC. It's got 16 inputs available, and it's got 16 outputs available on the module. Of course, it depends on how many inputs is available to you, is how many your PLC has. When I taught the intro to PLCs last time and we started using these, one group said the PLC had 16 inputs and the 16 outputs. And that was wrong because they were looking at the what? This, and they weren't looking at the PLC. So our PLC has 12 inputs. And of course, Siemens PLCs runs in groups of 7, right? Groups of 8s. So it goes in bytes. So if you look at the numbers, it goes 0 through 7 and 0 through 7. Which kind of confused. And you can literally either use the switches, what's so neat, or you can literally use the banana jacks. You can hook it up to this and literally bring in real inputs and real outputs besides switches. And this is the same thing true with the outputs. So we got the LEDs up here that indicates when the PLC turns on output on or turns output on, which is basically just duplicating these lights up here if it's wired correctly, right? You understand? And we can also hook actual physical devices. Now, what's becoming very, very popular with PLCs is to, instead of having a true chassis or a true rack, what they do now is it's very popular to use these rails. We call them DIN rails. And they have different styles. They call this a top hat DIN rail right here. Because if you flip it over, it kind of looks like a top hat. And then I think we got a C and a G. But there's different models, and you need to make sure you got the right rails. When we ordered them, the rails that they put on here was the ones that's mounted the 314s over there. And it was a different DIN rail. So we had one of our students works at a place, and he brought all these in, and we converted them over. So I had one of them up here. That originally came on. That's it. So when you look on the back of the PLC, this is what you'll see. It's got 2 hard snaps on here, right? First of all, you got 2 options. You can spread these things out, and you can mount them. You can mount them with a screw, okay? Or you can leave them in like this and then use the DIN rails. This is the one that stays in there. If you notice, this one is squared and this one is round. So what you can do is you can come over here and put it on the DIN rail, slide these in first, and then push the bottom of the PLC until you hear a snap. And then, of course, to get it out, you would have to get a screwdriver and stick it into this little slot right here, and then pull it out if you wanted to get the PLC out. Or if your DIN rail was not sealed on the ends, you could usually just slide the PLC out. Okay. And this PLC, of course, here's all the information about the PLC. So this is the information you're going to have to write down, right? You understand? Because what we're going to do is we're going to put another I/O module on here. And so what happens now, instead of having a true backplane with connectors on it, the backplane is actually created to the PLC itself. So most of your PLCs now, especially the smaller ones like this, they come with a fixed number of inputs and outputs, and then it allows you to do add to them. And the way the 1200 series is, on the right hand side you put additional I/O. On the left hand side, this is for different communication modules. I bet we've already talked about that. So this uses Ethernet IP, but if you needed to use current loop, or you needed to use the DH485 or the other interfaces that's available between PLCs, then you can buy a communication module and plug it on this side, right? Okay, you understand? Are we okay? Now, the way this works, and what's really cool, I've got the book I can show y'all, but you can buy all types of modules for this right here. what we decided to buy was inputs and outputs so we could use them with any PLC that we can mount on a DIN rail. And then we've got this last module over here, and this is the module that actually interfaces it. What's an interface? It's when you make the connection, right? So an interface is a connection too. So these are the two connectors. One of them goes up to the, so the B connector, I label that wrong. The B connector goes up to the front panel, and the A connector goes up to the actual module itself. And then this is the analog right here if we were to bring that analog connector down. This is an E-stop. This is not sent to the PLC. What it does, though, is you've got jumpers. You can't see them. But we got jumpers. It's not here. It's on the actual output module. You got a jumper that you put on where you can turn off all the outputs here. Makes sense? Like I said, that's a strange E-stop. So we come with the cables, and we're not going to wire tie these down, guys, and mine's starting to come loose. The way you'll find out it's going to be a lot easier to wire this thing up if we go ahead and wire it up before we mount the PLC. And then when you come over here, once you get it wired up, you can route the cables down through the panels and hook it up here, right? Does that make sense? So, by the way, what I like about the PLCs is they finally made some corrections. Originally, like on the 1500s over there, if you need to replace the PLC, you have to unwire the PLC and then rewire it. What most of our PLCs do now is they allow the terminal board to be snapped off. So we can literally, I don't know if y'all can see it or not, but there's a little notch right here that I can come in and I can insert a screwdriver, and then I can come over here and actually pull this off. And then what's nice about that is this stays wired, right? You understand? So what you can do is you can come over here and leave this wired. You can snap it off. You can replace your PLC, snap these things back on there, put the program in there that belongs to that module, and then you're up and running in less than 30 minutes, right? Understand? Instead of having to do what? Rewire it, yeah. And you're supposed to snap that in here. Get back in there yet. Oh, that in there. So, what we're going to do is we're going to originally start off by wiring the inputs and outputs. And then we'll play around with the PLC a little bit, right? And then we'll come back and we'll piggyback these guys right here, which allow us to run the line. We're going to have to do that because I think the switch right here actually turns into the E-stop switch right here. We're going to have to wire it up anyway. And it'll give us a little while. The way we do with the modules, of course, is so y'all both have to get an output module, which looks like this. And what will I have to do? I'll have to snap off this side cover. Or try to anyway. It hasn't been going good for me. And then that exposes this connector. And then we'll have to snap off the side cover on this one. So this has already been used. So there's a side cover on here also, right? We snap off that thing. And then we have this guy right here. And we'll match them up. And then we'll push them in. And when you get it pushed in, to latch it on there. Now it's not a really good mechanical connection, so be careful with that. Now to get it off, if you do need to take it apart and replace it, then what we have to do is we have to get a screwdriver and you have to push down on it to slide it out to disconnect it. Are we okay there? And like I said, so this would probably be better. I can't remember how I did it. I think I mounted the PLC and then mounted this and then slid it in and then latched it down to make sure it lines up. Are we okay? So what you should have, and I might have to run off one, we should have the wiring for the so these are pretty standard cables. Oops, let me bring the camera back up. So these are 16 pins. In fact, this is not the one. And they're key connectors. They're key connectors, so they'll only plug into the male connector in one direction. Then it's got one of the wires, it's got a red stripe on it. I've seen blue sometimes. This identifies pin 1 on the cable. And then they're just numbered sequentially. Makes sense? So when we look at the wiring diagram and how to wire these things up, I don't know if I ran that off or not. I think I did. And I got to make one of them. Because the way the book is laid out, it's really, really weird. Yeah, so all I have is the input module. So we're going to be using these, the 10 pin. We're not going to be using the big ones. These are the guys we're using right here. And then we got one, they're labeled SV1 and SV2. And of course it gives you, if I was to take the input module out, So here they are at the top. You can see the way it's Murphy. It's got what we call a Murphy connector. Of course, it don't mean anything can't be done. I've seen people actually break keys off, make a cable fit, not realizing they're putting it in their wallet backwards. This is power to the module. So this also has a latch on it. So if you want to take these off, make sure you know how they go back on there. This has only got one, so it's no big deal. So for some reason, they send power all the way down to this module first from the power supply. And this is it right there. And then they daisy chain the other modules that you put on there. So according to this, we'll use these two right here, SV1 and SV2, right? And then of course here's the pin out right here. So SV1, what are you going to hook up? What's that? That's L1 plus. Okay. So where's that going to go to? On the PLC. On the PLC. This is an input. Where's it going to go to on the PLC? I'm going to take the cover off. Bring my camera back up. So these are inputs. So here, this is L1, right? Okay. This is plus. This is plus. This is what? 0 and 0. Okay. And these are inputs. So this is my PLC. What do you mean? Well, what it's doing is that the PLC, we have to hook up the PLCs on whether they're syncing or sourcing. So what the cable gives me to, out of the power supply in this guy right here, it gives me a plus and it gives me a minus. And it's up to you on whichever PLC you mount on that rack if you hook up the minus or you hook up the plus. Right? Y'all understand? Okay. So, this is the PLC. This is where the 24 volt power supply is going to come in. So we'll show you how we're going to have to hook that up. This is the onboard power supply, which a lot of times is okay if all you're doing is going to operate push buttons. As soon as you say solid state sensors, that means you're going to have a bigger power supply, right? So we have some wires that will hook up. I don't know if y'all can see mine, where we can actually bring the output of the power supply up to that. So here's my input modules. So what this PLC does, it runs syncing inputs. So that means this guy runs syncing input, source, and output. Okay. So what do we need to hook up to the inputs right here? Do we need to hook up the minus or do we need to hook up the plus? Huh? Syncing is minus. So that means here we would hook up minus because the switches are hooked up to plus, right? You understand that? Okay. So that means here we'll put a piece of tape or something over the what? The plus, and we'll hook up the what? The 0 volts, which is the minus. Okay, does that make sense? We okay? And then input 0 is going to go to pin 2. Input 2 is going to go, input 1 is going to go to pin 3. And how do you know that? Well, when you look at the cable, there it goes right down the line, right? So this would be what? That's pin 1. this wire right here, when I break it out like this and find the end, this wire right here would be pin 1. I mean, I'm sorry, pin 2, right? Okay. Yes or no? Oh, I'm sorry.
I believe you.
I'm pulling on it. Yeah, right here. So that would be what? That would be pin 2, and the one right next to it would be what? Pin 3, and then right down the line till we get to pin 10. Okay. I'm sorry. So this would be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 7 over here, right? Okay? Right here. So they didn't get that, for some reason, they didn't add one more line. Oh, okay? No, this is not right. Oh, I'm sorry. This chart gives us both connectors. We're not using the 16 pin connector. We're using the pin connector, the 10, 0 through, we got 0 through 8. We got 0 through 6, and then 7's over here. But it's still on what? SV1. Right? So we could use this 0 right here. See, this is SV1. So SV1, we need to use this 0 right here, right? So this guy will go over to the M input on the PLC. Y'all understand? And then SV2, this picks up input 1, 0, right? You understand that? Or byte 1. Byte 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 7's over here. And this would be the pin out if we're using the big connectors. These guys right here. And we got both cables, it's just that these guys here work out better. Oops. So that would be these connectors right here. So these are 16 pins, these are 10 pins. So we're going to be using the 10 pin connectors. So one of them gives us, I don't know which one it is. One of them gives us 0 through 7. The other one would give us 7 through, 8 through, would be word, it wouldn't be 8, it would be word 1, 0 through word 1, 7, right? Okay? That would be 16. But we're not going to use all 16, and why is that? So we'll use all of this, but we won't use all of S2. And why is that? Huh? So that's 16 inputs. My PLC has 12. Right? You understand that? So we're going to be using Word. If we look at the oops. So this would be 0 through 7. This would be byte 1 through 5. Right? That makes sense? And then we'll tape off those other ones to make sure they don't flop around inside the cabinet. Are we okay? Okay, so I'll run off the outputs. So all we need to do is we need to get our PLC. We can go in here on the cart, get us one of these additional output modules. What did I do with my screwdriver?
The PLCs are there.
Yeah, we can use these PLCs right here. What did I do with my screwdriver? Huh?
I guess we might as well leave them on there.
We're gonna split into groups. Now we're doing groups now, right? Groups of what? One group of 2, one group of 3. So we only need 2 PLCs. I'm sorry, guys. Cables are over here in this drawer over here on the left. Right here. Something ain't screwed over. It's gone. Something ain't gone. The other lens. One of the lenses fell out of my glasses. I think so. Yep, found my screwdriver. See, I'm going to start wiring the inputs, right? I'll run you off the thing on the outputs here. I need to run this off for y'all too. That would help.